And I think we should be live. If you've come to book club before, you'll see that this is a new format. LinkedIn Audio Spaces got discontinued in December. So we're trying something new here by doing a video stream. People can join in the stream. I will tell you how later. I'll send you a link, though, if you message me, basically. And you can join without turning on your video, so you can still do the audio discussion, just kind of like we did before. But there's just a little bit of a barrier, I guess, to get into the stream, unlike the audio discussion before. So we're going to wait a few minutes, and then I will go into some of the changes, though, and talk about it. One cool thing that I think people have been asking for when we've done the book clubs in the past is being able to do more of a conversation in text or in the chat. So with LinkedIn Live or on YouTube Live, we're streaming to both right now. I think I pushed everyone or most people to the LinkedIn link. You should be able to talk in the chat there and ask questions or comment on anything, and have part of the discussion in there. So we're going to see how that works out. But I think a lot of people wanted that, like you wanted to be able to share links. And now we can do that. And I see Sige is here joining me as normal. Welcome, Sige.
Hi, Sage. Wow. New year, new formats, right?
Yeah, new format. We're going to go into that here for sure. So like I'd mentioned, if you want to come join the stream, like Sige is up here, you can also message me and I can send you a link to join. And you don't have to turn on your video if you want to do audio only, just like before. That's totally fine too. And we'll talk a little bit more about this new format. But like I mentioned, I think the cool thing that people will appreciate is the chat interaction. I can't talk. So you should be able to talk and chat. So if you are watching already, actually go ahead and say hello in the chat, and maybe where you're watching from. Maybe if you have anything that you're already interested to talk about in this book, LLMs in Production, say hello in the chat. And I'm going to actually bring it up on my end real quick as well. How are you doing, Sige, as I bring that up? Anything fun going on?
Yeah, I'm all right. Just nothing really. Just I'm just so amazed by how quickly the month has sort of like flown by. Like, when did 2025 start, right? And this is already the 21st. So before we know it, it'll be 2026.
I feel you. How is it already this late in the month? I swear it should be like the first week still.
So yeah, it feels like it. It feels like the first week. Yeah.
I have the LinkedIn chat. I'm just going to say hello in there. And we're going to see how this works out. New format. So hopefully, like, people have been asking for, how to share stuff in chat, I think, ever since we've been doing the book club in the audio space. So this way, let's see, when I commented. Okay, cool. Yeah. See, someone said hello. Again, feel free to ask questions in there. Also, if there's something we want to talk a little bit more in depth, like in the stream, I can bring it up and into the stream like this as well. But hopefully you can have some of the discussion there. Before we really get into the book, because we have the video format now as well, I'm going to share just like a quick intro kind of on the book club, I guess. And so this is, I keep almost saying February, even though I guess it is almost February now. This is the AI Book Club, and we're reading, we read, hopefully, or you're reading it now, Building LLMs for Production. Also, I didn't test this overlay before sharing the slides in here, so it looks weird with that kind of bar around it. I'll fix this for next time. Again, I think this first one in this new format is going to have some learning experiences for us all. And then, so if you're new to the AI Book Club, in short, we've been reading a new book every month. I think we did this all of 2024. And quite a few people came repeatedly to them. So even if it wasn't every single month they read the new book, they read a lot. I know I read the most technical books I think I ever have last year, partially because this book club. I don't know if you're in the same boat, Sige, or if you already were an avid reader.
Yeah, definitely. So I much preferred watching videos and doing them hands-on, but never really books or watching tutorials, right? But yes, I have read the most books, because of this as well.
Yeah, it's been even just selfishly without the discussions, which I've really enjoyed all the discussions as well. It's been a really good forcing function to kind of just make me read more and kind of put it on my calendar, which is kind of cool having a deadline. So that also might be useful for everyone. If you can't make it to every event, which I know not everyone can, but it's been really good kind of forcing function to say, ooh, what's the interesting book this month? And then I kind of have a timeline to read it. 1 month can be kind of ambitious for some of the books. So also I think for some of them, it's great. Like I've read them and then I might want to go back into some of them and go a little bit deeper or like run more of the code examples that I missed the first time. All right. So a couple notes too. So again, we have the chat interaction. I see people posting there now. This is awesome. Like I'd mentioned, that was kind of one feature people really wanted, because even in the audio discussion where it was kind of easier for people to come up and join the discussion there, a lot of people didn't, but they would comment or join the Slack channel, which I'll bring up here. Actually, if you want to join the Slack group, you can discuss in here throughout the week, not just during this live event. So that is another thing too. Like I saw someone ask a question in there today on LlamaIndex and LangChain, and they said they weren't going to be able to make it to the event, and it's great. Like we should be able to have that discussion in Slack as well. And it's just, if you want to have like a more permanent introduction there, you can do so as well. And Flyte, FLYTE, is open source AI kind of orchestration platform that I work on. So that's kind of why it's in that channel there. There's an AI reading club channel you can join. And I post all the events and links for everything in there as well. So it's also just one of the best ways to kind of stay updated with what's going on. And then a note again, and I'll probably say this several times for this first one. If you do want to come up and join the audio discussion, like I see some regulars here that have come to other events in the past. So if you do want to come up and say hello, again, you don't have to turn on your video. You can just join with audio. Message me on LinkedIn and I will send you the link where you can come up here with me and Sige, which also thank you, Sige, for coming up and being part of the new format on the first one here. It's exciting. And then also, I'll share a link too. This kind of just has a list of the previous books read, and I'm adding the next books that we're reading here as well, and trying to keep a little bit of keep track a little bit more of guests of like what we've done, and then also the schedule, because I do post this event on like Meetup, LinkedIn. Some people can kind of lose the links. You can always go to that GitHub. We'll have the current links coming up. And then also, here's a link. You can find this book in most places. I've been reading mostly on the O'Reilly platform. I actually have this one in print too. I should have brought it into this room. So I actually did go back and forth on this. But you can find this on Amazon or anywhere else. You can go to towards.ai and probably buy directly from them as well, if this book seems interesting and you haven't already got it. And then schedule for 2025 so far is January. We're reading this, Building LLMs for Production. Then we have in February, RAG-driven generative AI. And then we have in March, AI Engineering, Chip's new book. We started with her book last year. Designing ML Systems was really good. This is supposed to be kind of a sequel to it for a lot of the changes that have happened. And I think it goes into more of like, agents and generative AI than the first book did. Also, let me know what book you would want to read next. So everyone's here talking in the chat, I see. Put a book recommendation in the chat as well. And let me know if there's one you'd want to add into here. I think these three, I'm really excited. I just read this one. I haven't read these two yet, but I did look at them. I think they're going to build on each other really well. I really liked this building LLMs for production, and then this goes even deeper into different types of RAG and different types of databases for RAG. Like I know it goes into graph RAG and stuff as well. And then the AI engineering, I think, is a little bit more conceptual, but goes in depth into a lot of things kind of covered maybe at a high level in here. Again, mentioning the new format. Maybe people are rolling in here. I actually can't see how many people are watching live on LinkedIn, which I think is where most people are. So again, LinkedIn audio spaces are gone. That's why we're doing it this way. We're trying it out. Again, if you want to join the actual stream and do audio discussion like some of you have done before, message me on LinkedIn. And there's a link. If you're finding this on YouTube, there's a link in the description. You can just go there and my messages should be open. And again, the new format hopefully does add better chat integration. And also people have asked for recordings as well. And also we can make changes how we run this. So Again, this is a little bit of experimental. I feel like we had a good thing going with the last format, and I'm kind of sad it's gone, but hopefully these new changes will be better in some way. The last one we did in December was the build a large language model from scratch book. And although the analytics is kind of weird on the audio space, we had like over 800 people RSV/join, which was our biggest event ever. And now that space is gone, we have to kind of restructure how we do this. So again, give us feedback, I guess, too, on how you'd want to run this. But I will say I don't want to make like a whole giant slideshow presentation maybe every time, but I would love feedback on like what works for the book club, etc. And now that brings us to the book. So it's kind of talking about the new format a lot here. I'll do a quick chapter recap, unless if Sid, you have any initial thoughts maybe you want to provide for the book if you were able to read any of it.
Yes. Well, I read some of it. Well, of it, I think. So yeah. So what happened was I just jumped straight to the chapters that I wanted to read, but no, I didn't really read all of them. So yeah, I read the first few chapters; those were cool, and then just went straight to like the agentic part. And I liked how it had lots of examples. Right, he really dove into like practical examples and some ideas of like applications that you can like string together. So I see it as a really, really, like a book that would be really beneficial for when if I ever get to the place where I want to build something and I want to do it. I'm just gonna whip it out again and read it from top to bottom. But yeah, it is it's an amazing book, and and it was just so easy to read, right? It doesn't, I don't know if it was the format or if it was just everything. It was just really, really easy to get into.
Yep, I'm with you. And I kind of did the same thing originally, where because if you were here for a lot of the other books and actually read any of them or many of them, some of the first chapters kind of overlap a lot with what we've probably covered. Like if you've done LMs before, you've gone through tutorials, those like covers LM architecture again, and getting started with OpenAI. A lot of people may have already done that. They're still great chapters. I did go back and kind of skim through them, and they seem structured really well, and they had some really cool stuff like the history of architectures and stuff. There are some cool things to bring up in there that I really liked. I kind of did the same thing where originally I skipped ahead and went to I think I started with like their RAG chapter and advanced RAG, which I actually really, really liked. I thought it was a really good chapter. Into this book overall, then going back through the other chapters as well. And like I went from the advanced RAG all the way through to the end and then kind of back through some of the other ones. I think out of all the books we read so far, this might be like, if you're interested in LLMs, this might be like my number one introduction book that I would recommend now. They cover different things in the other books, like the building LLMs from scratch is fantastic and goes deeper into how like the architecture work. But if you just want to get started, I thought this was one of the best books for getting started. And not only just getting started, like an intro to interacting with OpenAI and building a simple app, it goes into like how to perform RAG, how to like build a chatbot to converse with your data sources. And then I thought the advanced RAG chapter was really cool. It introduces a lot of concepts, even if it didn't have a tutorial for every single one of there. I thought I went above and beyond kind of the basic intro, but not in a way where it would feel unwieldy if you're kind of new to it. And then, like Sid said, it had really good examples that you could go run. And I shared the link to their GitHub in the Slack. I can actually share it here in the chat as well. But if you want, where'd the link go? I'll have to find it in a second. But there's a really good resource link where just like, if you want to go look at the code, you could too. Obviously, recommend like buying the book and supporting them. But you can go mess around and like kind of run all these practical examples they put in there. But I thought overall, really, really good book. And now is probably my number one recommendation for people to start if you've done like a little bit of Python or just interested in getting into LMs. I thought this is really good. I can kind of recap, I guess, all the chapters, at least like their titles and some of the things I remember from it. Also, if you were here earlier for some of the book clubs, we used to run these weekly. It was kind of a lot. So now we're doing it monthly, but it sometimes it's kind of hard to remember the earlier chapters a little bit or what I read earlier in the month and then came back to. but I can read some of these chapter titles too, and then people in the chat, if you want to kind of list out what you're interested in or what you found valuable, or again, if you didn't read the book, that's fine too. But like if you have anything to comment or maybe even ask questions about what was in the book, do so in the chat. Or again, if you want to come join the stream and talk in audio, let me know and I can send you a link. And the best way to let me know is message me on LinkedIn, and then put your name that you have on LinkedIn when I give you the invite, and then I can let you in. So the first chapter was Introduction to LLMs. Again, this kind of covers the basics of large language models, what they are. One thing I noted, I think it was in this chapter or the next one. Actually, it might have been the next one, which was LM architectures and landscape. Had a cool kind of history section where it was like every year what was going on. I thought that was actually pretty cool to see. And then we had LMs in practice, and then introduction to prompting, and then retrieval augmented generation. And then, oh, did I mess these up? Oh, no, I guess that was. And then we had introduction to LangChain and LlamaIndex. Then we had prompting with LangChain. I think it goes deeper into using their prompt templates. And also, a question for people in the chat. Someone asked this in the Slack earlier of, I think their question, of which I think I answered in Slack a little bit, is like, what are the differences between LangChain and LlamaIndexes? But if anyone in the chat has comments they'd want to add in of like, have you used LangChain before? And then have you used LlamaIndex? And did you find yourself like sticking with it, really liking it, or switching from it? I think that's always kind of interesting to kind of hear about. And then the next chapter was indexes, retrievers, and data preparation. And then we had advanced RAG, which that's the chapter again I thought was really good. I have some notes that I could probably pull up for that one. And then we had chapter 10, which was agents, and then chapter 11, fine tuning, and then chapter 12 was deployment and optimization, which was a little bit of a shorter chapter if I remember correctly. But it's really cool. Of like this book, you could come in with almost no knowledge and then come away with like knowing how to deploy something. And I think you might even get, I forget if it's this book or another one where you get some credits for like Lambda Lab, and you can actually come away with like a deployed LM, which is really cool. So really covers kind of the everything. Again, not the deepest in all the sections, but a really good comprehensive covering of the whole landscape of building LMs and putting them in production. So I thought it was pretty good. And again, I see people saying hello in the chat. If anyone read this, did you have any favorite chapters or any favorite takeaways? And if you didn't read it, maybe what chapters sound the most interesting to you and relevant to like what you're learning or working on right now?
I think I saw a comment from I found it from Tim earlier talking about interested in LangChain patterns for RAG and just started with LlamaIndex. Nice.
Yeah, Tim mentioned that, and I don't know if you had a specific question around it. I think this book, like that chapter, seems really good, and then they continue to use LangChain and LlamaIndex throughout the book. So I think it might actually be in the advanced RAG chapter where you use more of LlamaIndex. Like they kind of introduce it. I think you build a Wikipedia query thing with their engine in the intro to LlamaIndex chapter, and then they continue to use it. LangChain's used like throughout the book. And then LlamaIndex, I think, comes up at least a few times in like the advanced RAG section. Someone said, sharing screen is even cooler. It's been a while. Welcome back. Again, yeah, this is a new format, so we're testing it out. Hopefully it'll go well and something we continue. But if you have other feedback, let me know. And it's cool seeing people be able to talk in the chat, because I know, not everyone wanted to come join the audio all the time and ask a quick question or something. So if people are active in the chat still here, that's fantastic. And we can continue it this way, as long as you are all okay with that. But again, if you do want to join the discussion here and come up and maybe talk on audio, let me know. Message me on LinkedIn, and I'll send you a link to be part of the stream if you wanted to actually ask like a question in audio or comment on something. That was something nice about the audio space. It did kind of make it easy, and people would come up and like add comments and then leave. But hopefully the chat will be even more active than we were in the audio space. So it's awesome to see people talking in there. For Tim, I am curious too, if you're still here, if you could maybe share more about your use case if you can. It's always interesting to see like why, I guess, why are you looking at using LangChain patterns for RAG or LlamaIndex? Someone asked what are some of the use cases they discuss within the book. Anything out of the usual? Nothing super out of the usual comes to mind. Let me see. I might think of something. And I should bring up the book and maybe skim it too. Um, but I know one thing that's cool is that I guess is maybe out of the usual of some of the books right now, but I think won't be, is their chapter on agents, where they dive into that a little bit more. And they kind of cover some of the basics of what are they called? What are the kind of couple big ones called? Baby GPT or Baby AGI? I forget. I'm thinking of
Yeah,
the name.
Auto GPT and Baby AGI.
Got it. They pull those up and I guess dive deeper into some of the agentic use cases than other books so far. Again, I think that's going to change, and I think the AI engineering book probably goes through a lot of use cases too. So I thought that was cool, talking about building an agent, something like Auto GPT, where the success of it is completing a task that might not know how to do. That's pretty interesting. And then also, I did really appreciate. I didn't mention this, but I forget what chapter it's in. It might be the LLMs in practice, I think. They, again, don't maybe bring up or they don't go super in depth in all of the different things, but they do bring up enough where it's like interesting and for you to learn more, is monitoring LLMs in production and like hallucination and kind of the latest, at least when this book was written, for kind of trying to counter some of that. So they have links. I'll find this resource link here in a second too, because I actually had links to everything like I forget all the score names, glue. There's a whole bunch of different kind of things that they bring up. Someone said they don't talk about Crew AI or LangGraph. I don't think they do yet. When this book was written, I'm not sure how popular those were. I know LangGraph now is kind of one of the de factos, and Crew AI for building agents. I don't think they do in this book. And I'm going to bring up the or find that resource link so I can post it in the chat. So might be quiet here for 1 minute while I do that.
Yeah, because I was sort of wondering about that as well. Because I don't think Auto GPT and Baby AGI are really that popular anymore. And also, yes, as someone mentioned, not mentioning Crew AI. So yeah, that I do think they're like, like a little bit. When was it published actually?
It
When
was
was
published in 2024, I
uh,
think, but like September or something. And they probably started writing this, you can only update so much when you're writing a book right now, I feel like.
and things move so quickly.
Yeah, it's gotta be hard. So they, because this was like kind of, I feel like it was somewhat later 2024. But yeah, when they started writing it, it's like they probably had it outlined, and yeah, it would be, you got to draw the line somewhere, I guess, on updating, right? Oops, I think I got the
Uh,
resource link.
so yeah, so someone mentioned use cases. I do remember the one that was about like the agents interacting with each other in a social manner, right? Like one of them organized like a Valentine's party and invited everyone in, or well, while that has practical applications, I just really thought that was, I really thought that was fun. But there were a few like practical ones. Let me see.
Yeah, one thing I liked too while you're looking at that was in the advanced RAG, I think it was advanced RAG chapter. They kind of go into a good amount of like different ways of structuring prompts, or like doing query. I don't know what to call it, query expansion or something like that. Like where you're kind of changing the query sometimes with like the user query to your RAG database. And they touch on a lot of stuff that I thought was really interesting there, like query construction, which converts the user query into maybe more compatible like format for your sources, or it might like shorten it or something like that to get better results. And then as query expansion, which again is similar, but I guess you can add in more related items or like synonyms or probably like auto correcting. And then query transformation, which was adjust the query to optimize for knowledge base vector query. So that often is like shorter or more concise. So like if you had a really long query or prompt into it, a lot of that information might not be relevant to the vector database. So they do a good job of kind of shortening it. And then they had the subquery question or sub question query. So you break down more complex queries into multiple subqueries for RAG, which I thought was pretty cool too. And then also talking about custom retriever engines, which is like instead of just returning, or at least most of the time I've done it, it's like I'll kind of return the top K amount of documentations or chunks that are returned from my vector query. But instead, it's like instead of just returning those, you could take those and like summarize it without any of the priority in there, and then just pull them in, and then like kind of just use that. I guess it's like another way of formatting the results from your engine into your LLM. And then re-ranking, which is like you get the order of those things, and then you might, when they're all pulled up, actually give them to LLM and have them re-rank it. And then they had a whole bunch of other stuff too of like how to evaluate and monitor those things. So again, once you put something in production or just evaluation period like out, they kind of dove deep enough into there, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, I think it was like really amazing how they put in a lot of information, but then just doses, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. You sort of see everything, but not too much in depth that you'd be like, oh, what is this? But then you see everything and you have some idea.
Yeah, I thought it was great, like I mentioned, for not being scary,
Yeah.
but giving you an idea of everything you could go dive deeper into and look for. And again, it's just one book, can't cover everything. Someone asked, so do we have a difference between LangChain and LlamaIndex? And when I was looking at it, and from when I've used them a little bit, and I haven't done a lot of LlamaIndex, I used LangChain a while ago when LLMs were kind of first coming out, or LangChain was first coming out. And it seems like, well, now LangChain, I don't know like what it doesn't do. Like I feel like they've added kind of all the different layers into building LLMs into their abstraction. So it's like now they have embedding models, or way to call embedding models, I should say, and kind of all the different things you'd want in there, and connecting to resources, chunking. Now they also have like LangSurf and LangSmith, which is like other services they integrate with, so you can easily serve the LangChain app straight in there. But it seems like they've kind of made abstractions for almost all the little pieces you'd want to do, like while building an LLM. And LlamaIndex seems still, I could be wrong, so someone correct me if I'm wrong here, or if you have opinions on this in the chat, or join the audio. LlamaIndex seems like, and they started for more being like connecting LLMs to data sources, so like focus still around RAG and connecting to data sources there. They probably expanded a little bit, so there's overlap there of like querying to data sources and maybe a little bit of like prompt templating for that. But they still seem to be more focused in doing that, versus LangChain has kind of expanded to like have an abstraction for almost everything, is what I kind of feel like. I don't know if Sid, you have a different feeling or opinion.
No, bro, that's pretty much it. So I think it's possible to use both. I think LlamaIndex does the sort of connecting to the data to sources and the retrieval part, and it's a bit more advanced um, than LangChain in that, because that's what it specializes on. So it's possible to use both. But yes, like you said, LangChain is just more general, does a whole bunch of other things, while LlamaIndex is more specialized to connecting to data sources.
That makes sense. Yeah, and LangChain really is like, I feel like they just have an abstraction for almost everything now, which I noted too. Like, some people really like, some people don't. I feel like I haven't used it as much anymore lately, um, because it almost feels like, well, one, sometimes and I should go poke around with it more again. But almost feels like sometimes I'm writing more abstraction than code. like like when you start writing like a whole bunch of stuff and you're like, okay, I'm calling all these different things from LangChain. I could be writing the code to do it. And then also like I've heard, and this was a while ago, so I'm not sure if this is still kind of the feeling on it, is like a lot of people would start with LangChain and use it for really good, like quick prototyping. And it seems to really excel at that. Because if you just want it to work, they probably have something to like call a database or do a specific type of chunking or do whatever built in. And then when they go outside of kind of the rapid prototype era, then they might kind of move off of it and want to build out what they made in LangChain, but with their own lower level code. That being said, too, I haven't poked around with it much yet, but LangGraph is their newer framework that a lot of people are using for like agentic workflows and stuff. But it seems lower level. So I think that might provide some of the stuff you want, while not being as like convoluted with all their abstractions. Maybe I haven't used it enough to say. That's oh yeah, go ahead.
No.
No.
I was just gonna agree with you that I've heard the same about LangChain. I haven't used it myself extensively, other than just playing around. I also do hear a lot of people talk about how maybe some aspects don't work so well that you just end up implementing it yourself, right? So just moving out of it. But yeah, I'd say I've used Crew AI though, and I like that. I like that, but then again, I suppose I'd have to use LangChain to really, to really tell just how different it is. But yeah, I've heard those things too as well. Is what I was going to say.
And Tim followed up on his use case was they were looking at the query construction, hooking up graph languages, not Cypher. I forget, a Cypher Neo4j's graph language, or is that a different one?
Yeah,
and then combining results. Yeah, it is, I think. Nice. So they're doing query construction, hooking up graph languages. So I assume a graph database at some point too. Then combining results. So the more advanced examples looked interesting. You have a small ChromaDB example, but looking at whether I'd want to extend or adopt the vector databases, or if they'll work out of the box. I've been trying to keep things running local, but like that LangChain, it's possible to swap out components. Nice. Yeah. I was just playing around too, as for vector databases. I know there's so many, and I don't have a strong reason of why to use necessarily one over the other, besides some of their like caching features and stuff, if you want to use one of their cloud things. But I was playing around with VIII the other day, and it was very nice and simple and easy to set up. And they also have a embedded version that you can run locally. So I know you're thinking about maybe not doing it local anymore, but if you want to play around with it local, kind of like you're doing with ChromaDB probably, they have an embedded client that runs in your memory, which is kind of cool for getting started. And then I think you can switch to their cloud thing. And I think you get a decent amount of cloud time or credits or something too, which is cool. But they made it easy to like create a collection, put data in, query from it. And Michael had a question. Said, sorry, just found this group yesterday. Will be prepared next month. Awesome. Well, and maybe you'll want to join the stream next month as well. Did they touch on penetration testing of deployed LLMs, testing for bias, ethics, error, or unattended usage? Does ISO 42001 AI management system certification get mentioned? I feel like that will gain interest in enterprise late this year. I don't remember the mentioning of that specific ISO certification. Probably came out, or I'm sure it was in the works, but yeah, I don't remember it mentioned. It could have been in here. I did see, I think, was it just Anthropic or someone got that certification the other day that was just in the news, I believe, which, yeah, probably we'll see more and more enterprises come up with that. But they do talk about, let me try to bring up the chapter real quick, maybe. Again, I think it might have been in the LLMs in practice, where they go.
Chapter 11, challenges of LLM deployment.
Oh, got it. Because I think also, I'm going to look real quick. So the chapter, so it sounds like probably chapter 11 has a fair amount too. So chapter 3, LLMs in Practice, also has understanding hallucinations and biases. So part of the bias question, I think, might be tackled in here. And then it has reducing hallucinations by controlling outputs, which is an interesting thing too, which actually I could touch on here. But this chapter then goes into kind of the different evaluation things, which some of them I think go in for the bias type of stuff. And then Sid, you were saying chapter 11, the deployment one.
Yeah, I think so. I think I read in the second to last where they talked about things like so I think they had some examples, right, of if the output of the LLM is in grades, then you have another model to check that, and the ethical one. So I think they used an example of like how to cheat on an exam or something. And
Oh yeah. I forget which. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, which one was that? It was either, I think you're right. It was either like the fine tuning or the deployment one. Yeah, and they they have a kind of mini like red teaming example, I think, in there, right? Of like, you're trying to make it do unethical things. So they do touch on it. Again, it's not like a book on it. And again, there's probably ever evolving practices here too. But that's right. I forgot they do have that. And so it said Qdrant also has a Docker-based database. I know they're one of the other large kind of vector database providers that they're actually on my list to go check out too. I think I know someone that works there, and it seems pretty cool. But also, yeah, actually, that's a good question for anyone watching and in the chat. If you have any tools or recommendations for building LLMs in production, that'd be kind of fun to hear what you've used. So, like, have you used any of the frameworks for like agents, like we mentioned, like Crew AI, LangGraph? Do you have a favorite vector database that you've enjoyed? Throw those in the chat. I think that's actually really cool and interesting to hear kind of a list of tools that people have used before.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. Hugging Face released some small agents, right? Has anyone used that? Have you tried it out?
I haven't tried it out yet, but I was looking at it the other day. It looks really cool. I'll get the link to that to share in the chat as well. Also, related to it is they updated a course they have. I can find that too. They have like I think they call it Small LLMs, which is like a GitHub kind of based at your own pace course. And they updated a whole section with this. So if you're like interested, they have good educational resources on it. I'll find that too.
Yeah, they also starting constitutional AI chapter 7. Yeah, thanks, Mr. User. I'm just kidding. But yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's the one I thought was in chapter 11, but it's chapter 7. So yeah, Hugging Face has a course coming out on agents as well, I think, to sort of match the new library. So yeah, that could be fun as well.
And someone mentioned use the Gremlin graph database for RAG. I haven't, but actually I know the other person, was it Tim, talking about different graph databases, but you weren't using Cypher, so maybe not. Maybe you're not using Neo4j. If you have a different graph database, that'd be interesting to hear about too. Okay, cool. Constitutional AI. Oh, and also, yeah, the person who posted that on StreamYard, which we're streaming from, in the chat, it just says LinkedIn user because you probably have some privacy thing there. So I can't see the name of who posted it. That's why Sage said Mr. User. But on LinkedIn, sometimes then I go to LinkedIn chat and I can see all the names. So it's probably just a setting there.
So like one of the reasons why I'm very excited about the small agents from what I saw on their GitHub, right? So they have the in our code agent, so that's for the code. The LLM engine writes its actions in code. This is demonstrated to work a lot better than letting the LLM output a dictionary of the tools it wants to call. So I know this has been a major problem, right? Where the output from one step to another is like in JSON code, and sometimes they don't output it right, and then they don't understand it well in the next stage. So yeah, so very very interested to see how they they sort of approach that and solve that?
They have the whole section on like output parsers too. And there's actually, this reminded me, there's something I want to bring up. Let me find their GitHub. There is a really cool local startup in Seattle. For me, it's local. They're called Boundary ML, but they have a tool called BAML, which I've been hearing a lot about now just in the community. So it seems like it's getting some adoption. I only played around with it briefly, seen some demos. I haven't built anything super cool with it yet. But let me share this in the other chat too. It's one I would check out. Like, it seems like it's getting a lot of traction. People really like it. So it allows you to really structure your output and inputs to LLMs and give them things like typing. So like if you're expecting something to be JSON coming out or an int or something like that, it handles that really well. And when people adopt it, they seem to really, really, really like it. So it's on my list to go mess around with more as well. Has anyone heard of that one before?
Oh, nice. This is cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
I think they have a cool playground as well. That is probably linked in there. If not, it's on their website somewhere. So if you don't want to install anything, like right now, it's I think you have to use a VS Code plugin. I know they're working on some other ways to do it. But if you want to go play around with it, you can. Oh yeah, there. I assume this is at promptfiddle.com. And then you can mess around with structuring your inputs and outputs. Share the link to this too. Someone said N8N hosted visual LangChain, Pinecone, and Perplexity. Cool. I haven't heard of N8N. N8N. Powerful workflow automation software. Cool. I'll have to look at this. Also, I'll give since we're talking about tools here too, the Slack we're on, the Flight Slack, that is a workflow tool. So if you're looking for some other workflow options that scale up, it's pretty good. Built on Kubernetes. And I was going to mention for large languages, specifically LinkedIn, which we're streaming on right now and talking, they actually switched all of their large language model workflows over to using Flight, which is pretty cool. And they did a YouTube stream with us not too long ago about like what that whole architecture looks like for them, which again, different than us doing a kind of small project or something in here. They're doing something at scale for a whole bunch of different people with a lot of data. So that was pretty interesting to see. Someone said it's like make.com, but meets LangChain. I'm not sure what make is either. All these different tools. I'm going to go look them up though. I assume is that like, I couldn't tell by visual. Do you mean like it's all kind of a visual thing where almost like you can visually program LangChain, like a low code, no code platform?
So make is like Zapier on steroids.
Oh. So you can probably define a workflow and then be able to make that workflow do a lot of different things is what you're saying.
Pretty much, yeah.
Cool. And then I assume this is that, but for LangChain. So yeah, drag and drop. Awesome. Cool. Interesting. I'll have to take a look at it. That's pretty cool to hear too, like people being able to use something like that. Someone said N8N is more of a JavaScript glue workflow. Flight is cool for running large. Yeah, but people switch over to like Flight or Union when they're running really large scale, and it's also not a no-code platform. So like you define it all in your Python. Most people use the Python SDK, and then you're kind of just adding decorators above like the Python functions to define your workflows. Actually, I might find that LinkedIn talk to share too if people are interested. It's kind of fun to see like bigger companies talk about how they architect things. Yeah, this is really cool hearing about the tools people have been using. And then also, again, keep in mind, I know we're getting a lot of, I would say, it's interesting in this new format because I think we are getting more discussion happening, which is awesome. Like in the comments in the chat, obviously just Sidge is up here talking with me, which is great. Thank you so much. And I just want to make sure, like, is this kind of format still interesting for people? I know a lot of people are just listening to the audio before anyway, so maybe this is just as good. Maybe it's better because you have the better chat interaction. Would actually love to hear feedback of what people think of this new format. Again, we have to change formats too, so we can't go back to the old one because it's gone. So just keep that in mind. If you're like, no, the old one was better, well, we can't get it back. But curious of what you think of the new format. Does this still work for everyone? Is it interesting for you to learn about the book or discuss the book? Discussing in chat, is that more fun? Maybe too, because this is the first one. Maybe I can do more with the screen sharing. I don't want to share the whole book. That's probably not technically like allowed or something. I don't want to get into any copyright things, but I might be able to do maybe like a quick chapter summary or something like that for everyone and just make like a slide based on that. I'm not sure if that would be interesting and like control some of the flow of the conversation. So there's a lot of stuff we could play around with. If anyone has ideas or feedback of like what you'd want added, let me know.
So I think with this new format, right, people might be less motivated to come up and just chat in the chats,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like you said, like no one has to turn on the video or anything. But
Right.
But still, right. And also I think the steps. So I think they're like more steps, right? You have to be messaged,
right,
to get on board. Whereas with the LinkedIn, you could just like raise your like I click on the raise your hand icon. So yeah, I think. But I do agree that we have been able to discuss a lot more. It's just so much better, right? For two reasons, which is when you can share something and put it up there and we can all look at it, but also when conversations can happen in the chat simultaneously. That also, but yeah. So it's been great, like considering those.
Awesome. Yeah. And I might be able to, again, first time, so I might be able to make it easier for people to join, like share the link in the chat or something like that, potentially. One thing is, yeah, I think that might work next time too. Maybe I'll try to make it easier if I can for people to come up and join like the audio and or video if people want to next time. No one did message me, so no one really wants to. We'll see. Also, there's other regulars and stuff that I'll send the invite out to more. So yeah, hopefully we'll have like continue like get more people up talking. I know it also took a while, even running the first ones, to get more people up and talking as well. But hopefully we'll get there. That's probably the big thing I want to get more of. It's like people joining the conversation if they can. But it has been way more fun to kind of like, I assume like there has been more people talking in the chat than there usually are in audio. So that is really cool to see more people talking, and I can actually see your opinions and questions and stuff, I think way more than we could have in the audio one. So yeah, I think someone also mentioned maybe sharing main points. So that's a good point. It might be fun to also kind of crowdsource some of that from like the Slack channel. Maybe I can try to do a better job of like keeping people updated in the Slack, but also asking questions. So like if someone had some main points they'd want to summarize or put in a slide, I could take that and put them in there. I think that could be cool. And yeah, I think maybe doing a slide, depending on how many chapters there are, maybe combining some of the chapters into a slide and maybe putting main points in, like you're saying, and like high level, like this is what was in there. But yeah, it's also like we don't want to show everything from the book, and we also can't cover everything exactly in the book in about an hour or so either. Someone said it's hard with technical books, but if you can find anything on Audible audiobook, more people will read it when driving. Interesting. Yeah. I haven't. Has anyone read an audiobook or listened to an audiobook for a technical book? It sounds really like I said, I know they're out there and I know people listen to them. For me, I don't think it would work. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess
I'd have to like pause and rewind a lot.
Yeah, or like if I was reading the book while listening, but had the visuals or something, maybe it would be better. But I like while driving, I don't know. I mean, it is. I guess it would be better if you're looking for some like passive knowledge coming in. It actually might work pretty well. But and people's brains work differently than mine too. So I don't know. It seems like it would be hard for me. But that is a good point. And I know O'Reilly does a fair amount of them in audio, actually. I haven't listened to one though, and they're even on the O'Reilly platform a lot of the times too. Which again, that's like O'Reilly has an online platform with all the books and stuff. That's what I've been using. You can usually find all the books on there. I can't promise every single book will always be on there, but they have a lot of them from the different publishers like Pact and Towards AI. Even that, I was surprised they had this on here. I actually bought it in hard copy a while ago because I didn't think it was going to be on there, but it was. In Manning and a lot of the other big publishers. So stuff does end up there. A question for everyone too is what book should we read next after March? So again, the schedule so far for 2025 is going to be this book in January. Again, I thought this was a really, really good introduction. It gave me more to think about that I hadn't gotten from other books. And then also February is RAG-driven generative AI, and then March is AI engineering. Nicholas said they had listened to Clean Code on audio, and yeah, it definitely missed the visual examples, but the theory was all that's also true. Actually, I think it depends on the book probably too. Like if it's like actually AI engineering, I think is more theoretical and foundational than like having code examples, and that one actually might be good on audio. So good point. Maybe I'll add that to the link if I can find the audio version, Nick.
So did you mean that you would enjoy that you think, because I think this one would actually be easier to listen to on audiobooks than the AI engineering, because it had a lot of, like compared to something that maybe has like code or something. What do you think?
But this one, I felt like this one had a lot of code, and it would be like, I don't know, when they introduce a thing and then show it in code, they're not going to read the code to you, are they? I don't know. Import LangChain, like yeah. Or is it like describing high level? Like now I'm actually just kind of curious. Because I don't think, I could be wrong because I haven't read it yet. I don't think AI engineering has code examples. I think it's closer to how designing ML systems was.
Yeah.
Where it's like more a little bit more theoretical, and so at least for me, I feel like that would be better than. I think there's still going to be visuals though, for sure, in it, and it would be maybe hard for some of the concepts without visuals. But to me, it seems like it would be better than like a code heavy book. But these are great feedback from everyone. Thank you. And again, if you have other ideas of how to maybe run this better, we can keep them going. I'm excited to keep going this year. And if you have books that you want to read outside of these upcoming 2 ones, let me know in the chat or in the Slack. I'll share that link again too. So if you want to stay updated, Slack is one of the best places here. I post everything in there that we do. And then also you can discuss in there during the week. So I know we haven't always done the best job of that, but it was cool seeing like the question today around like LlamaIndex and LangChain. Like you can ask those types of questions, outside of the live events as well. And hopefully we can get more people talking in there actively. All right. Well, with that, I mean, we're kind of close to the end of the hour. I don't know if anyone has any last minute things they want to shout out or mention before we kind of wrap up here. But thank you so much for everyone coming and talking in the chat. If you weren't talking in the chat, this would not be nearly as fun. And then also Sige, thank you for coming up. Also wouldn't be nearly as fun without you here. Hopefully you'll still be a regular up here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, this is fun. Like even, I think it adds like a dimension to the conversation when you can see the other person, right? So yeah. It's fun. I read. I don't think I read your newsletter this week, but I think I read the last week. Are there any like fun things or interesting things that you think are out at the moment?
Oh yeah, let me bring it up real quick. because I know there was some interesting tool releases this week. And yeah, if anyone, thanks for bringing it up, Sij. If anyone's interested, I do a newsletter almost every week. I try to do it almost every week. It's kind of recapping all the stuff that I see coming out. I'm sure I miss stuff all the time because, my goodness, is there so much like every single week. But I try to capture all the interesting tools or blogs related to kind of AI, MLOps, and also kind of robotics. Let's see, this week, let's see, what was the most interesting stuff? I know there was something. Oh, there's this kind of comes up, or kind of related to one of the comments earlier too, was this article from Arise that I thought was kind of interesting, like a quick guide to the European AI Act for AI teams, which is, maybe something you need to look at or be interested in. That was a good kind of little summary of like what to look for and like practical advice on how to think about it. Oh, and yeah, there was TIM models are now on transformers, which if anyone's done computer vision stuff before, I'm not sure if you've seen TIM models. There's usually a lot of computer vision models in there and a lot of lightweight ones. Now they're accessible directly inside Hugging Face transformers. So if you want to use, because they're putting like a lot of work, I think, into building and maintaining like pipelines in Hugging Face, like the method that you're using like to run LLM stuff. So now there's stuff, they make it easier for you to bring in existing kind of computer vision models directly in there, which I thought was pretty cool. I feel like Hugging Face always has some of the coolest stuff right now. If you just go check out their website, like every week, there's going to be interesting new stuff on there.
I think I saw something else from Arise. I'm trying to remember what it was.
They had one this week. I also put, there was another one. It's training large language models to reason in continuous latent space.
Yes, that's the one. Yes, that's the one.
And it was this week too. The Anthropic achieves ISO 42001 certification, the same certification that someone had brought up in the chat earlier. So that's kind of interesting. Like, we are going to see that more this year, I think, from industries adopting that.
Nice.
But yeah, if you ever see anything cool, also there's in the same Slack group that you might be joining for the book club. There's also an AI news and resource channel. So if you see anything interesting, feel free to share it there as well. And it's always kind of fun to see what's going on. So like I shared like small agents when it came out there. And if you see anything cool, put it in the chat or put in the Slack. I feel like there's a cool podcast I didn't listen to, but it sounded cool. Oh, there's so on Twimmel, which is a popular ML podcast. I didn't listen to it yet, but I actually might put this on after this. There's one called Evolving MLOps Platforms for Generative AI and Agents. So I kind of work in the platform space and MLOps space, and it's always interesting to see, how people are thinking about adopting platforms for generative AI and agents. And I'm not sure where this person actually works yet, but I'm sure that's going to be an interesting listen for me, kind of probably on the infrastructure side, and or like visual feedback for people building agents.
Nice. I also came across another podcast on, I think, last week's one, the one from NVIDIA about world foundation models and physical AI. That was, that was an interesting listen as well.
There's so much every week.
Yeah.
Also, I'll put out there too, right before we wrap up. If anyone in the chat or listening is going to be at NVIDIA GDC, it's not until late March. I think it's March 17th. I plan on being there, though. So if you want to meet up or something, let me know. GDC last year was crazy. It was one of the coolest conferences I went to. There were so many just robots running around. Like, it's NVIDIA's big event. And last year was their first time being back in person since like COVID. And it was wild. Like, just the robots and all this hardware that was doing really cool stuff with AI was awesome. I'm excited to be there again this year. I'll probably be at a booth most of the time, so you can find me in the exhibiting floor. I don't know our booth number yet, but I'll let you know on LinkedIn at some point. But yeah, if anyone is going to GDC, let me know if you want to meet up and say hello in person or something like that. That'd be cool. With that, I think we'll wrap up the stream. So again, thank you everyone for coming. Hopefully you kind of enjoyed this new format. Hopefully it wasn't too weird or clunky for the first time doing it. I'm sure we'll get better with this too. But yeah, if you have feedback about it, let me know. Otherwise, I'll wrap up the stream. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much, Sige, again, for coming up as always and adding so much to the conversation. I'm going to end the stream.
Awesome.
Talk to you all later.
Bye, everyone.